Okay, wait, I have one more video and then I will take one from chat. The next video is called How History's First Finance Bro Ruined a Nation, for my hoser. That sounds really funny to me. Like, who's the first Wall Street's Bets guy, and how did they ruin a nation? That sounds fucking interesting. I like history. I like finance. I like making fun of finance bros. This is all a W. So let's watch this.
Story of a man who escaped certain death. This is the story of a man who escaped certain death, took nearly total control of a foreign economy, became the richest man the world had ever seen to that point, and created one of history's largest financial bubbles, only to have it all crash down, dying a gambler who never accepted his failure. This is how John Law engineered, then gambled away the French economy.
Is this the Louisiana stuff? You don't have to spoil it for me, but I'm pretty sure this is the guy who like lies about. I don't want to spoil it, but he lies about how profitable and great the land in Louisiana is going to be, and sells $1 gazillion worth of it, and then it's it's a fucking bubble. It's a total lie. Pre-lived? Well, I bought some. Back in the day, John Law was like telling me all this cool shit about Louisiana, and I was like, fuck it, dude. I don't want to be left behind. I got FOMO, so I threw all my money in, and then fucking here I have to stream now. Here I am a couple centuries later at the fucking stream.
He was born in 1671 to a fairly well-off family in Edinburgh. His father was a goldsmith, and a good one too, gaining enough goodwill to become the title holder to Lauriston Castle. In the late 1600s, goldsmiths were the banks of Great Britain.
That's hype.
A widespread coin shortage across the continent forced Europeans to conserve the shrinking gold they had. Goldsmiths, being well-trusted handlers of it, would issue out promises to pay, basically IOUs of gold, which were used to settle debt in their communities.
How about that?
If you wanted to send someone money, you could just write a letter to the goldsmith and he would transfer it for you. This environment is where John Law grew up and worked for his father. Young John was naturally gifted at math and with numbers, but his real passion, his real passion was at the casino.
Hey,
John loved gambling.
This guy rules. This guy rules, dude. He likes gold. He likes money. He likes gambling. Man after my own heart.
Gambling and all things debauchery. He loved drinking. He was a favorite with women, and he was a regular at gaming houses throughout his life.
Sheesh!
His friends called him Beau, which I'm told by my associate is like the early modern equivalent of a situationship king.
Okay, all right, playa.
When his father died, he left Scotland, going to the London high life, trying to get rich through dumb, quick schemes.
Yeah, who hasn't been there?
Obviously, this didn't work. He actually ended up gambling away his inheritance money and mortgaged his family's.
And this is the first, last, and only time in history that gambling did not work. So don't take the wrong lesson from this. If you watch this, you'll be like, oh, I'm scared of gambling. This is it's the exception that proves the rule. Everybody else in history has made easy, guaranteed, reliable money from it. John Law's story is so interesting because he didn't. He's like the one guy to lose.
The state to pay for it. Besides that, John was involved in the usual drama that a beau like him would face. He was fighting with Beau Wilson over something, most likely a girl, and the two would regularly engage each other. Eventually, it ended in a duel between them, when John was 23, he was arrested for the murder of Edward Wilson.
Oh shit!
John Law was sentenced to be hanged. He did murder somebody in broad daylight after all, but I don't know. I thought the point of a duel was to kill somebody legally. His high-ranking friends begged for a royal pardon though, and his charge was reduced. But then, while he was waiting in prison, in a story nobody knows the full details of, John Law escaped and found his way on a ship to Europe.
What? Rich kid kills a guy in a duel, then escapes prison? I did not know that. Paid off a guard with what money, dude? He was broke. He gambled it all away. He's got quite a life, and it's only 2 minutes into this video.
His life for the next 21 years consisted of popping out in a new European city, gambling, trading, and courting noble friends. Cayenne, Amsterdam, Venice, Genoa, Turin, Budapest, back to Edinburgh at one point, Paris,
baller.
He went all over. In each city, he would study their banking systems, practically dedicating his life to thinking and writing about money. He was a goldsmith's son, after all. He thought about the best ways to store money, to exchange currencies for others, the role interest plays in society, and most importantly, how to improve the real economy using fake money.
Okay.
And in his famous essay on a land bank, he laid out his ideas. Instead of backing money by gold or silver, he thought it should be backed by a state's land so that it was more stable.
Okay, this is how I know we've all gotten dumber. Because, like, a guy like this, gambler, womanizer, traveler, player, nowadays, can you imagine someone nowadays writing a book? They can write a tweet, maybe. But can you imagine this person? Maybe they have a podcast. I'm fucking guilty. They're not going to write they're not going to sit down and write an essay on a land bank. That's a lost art.
He laid out his ideas. Instead of backing money by gold...
This is the 1700s version of a podcast. It is just someone's got to hear me speak. Someone's got to hear my ideas.
...or silver, he thought it should be backed by a state's land so that it was more stable, more predictable, and could be issued out in higher quantities. The Dutch didn't get rich because of their hard-working nature, as many Europeans thought at the time, but because of their abundant money supply and cheap credit, letting them finance the world's largest corporation. His next famous work was Money and Trade Considered, an actual proposal to the Scottish Parliament to set up a land bank. Scotland faced so many hardships, he wrote. The soil is hard to farm, the winters are harsh, and the people of the island know no manufactures. If land-backed securities were used...
Say the Scots are lazy? My people are lazy. They can't build shit. They're just not good.
Island know no manufactures. If land-backed securities were used to back a currency, farming and factories would take off, and once financed, a land bank would profit from the employment of previously wasted resources. Although this was debated in the Scottish Parliament, it was ultimately rejected.
Yikes.
So he went back to Europe, amassing a small fortune through setting up his own gaming houses, about £20,000. Rumors would spread of a rich banker who...
Bro made £5 million?
About £20,000.
Making his own casinos?
Rumors would spread of a rich banker who set up shop in the city, in some cases finding him influential friends like the Dukes of France, in some others getting him kicked out of the city. He never stopped proposing his land bank though, even if it wasn't for his home country. He tried to present it to the King of France, Louis XIV, but that guy must have said something like, "A bank of land? What about my gold? I'm the Sun King. I own it, and you're a Protestant, so you can leave now." He also...
It's a direct quote, actually. That's exactly what he said.
Also presented it to the Duke of Savoy, who liked the idea but thought it was too risky for such a small kingdom to try.
Take a risk!
The Duke did recommend John try again in France, though, because the French are always open to new ideas. Luckily for John Law, Louis XIV, no matter how powerful he was not powerful enough to stop gangrene, and he was now dead in 1715.
Yikes.
His son, the new King of France, was 5 years old, so power fell upon a regency council, headed by Philippe II, the Duke of Orleans. Everybody's favorite part of running a government is how you don't have to worry about a budget. It'll just balance itself, you know? But in times of political instability like this one,
fucking true.
Sometimes you really do need to crunch the numbers and get the budget in order. And oh man, did Louis XIV really screw up France's balance sheet. During his 72-year-long reign, royal authority had replaced a balance of power between estates and provinces. He appointed his own loyalists into local city councils, curtailed royal courts, instituted Protestant discrimination, and fought a series of wars to bring glory to France.
Okay.
They expanded France's territories, yes, but also its debt.
It costs a little money.
Meanwhile, he appointed Jean-Baptiste Colbert as his finance minister, best known as the father of mercantilism, an idea that the amount of gold a nation has is the source of its strength. So writing this debt, as long as it didn't touch the gold supply, was no big deal, right?
No biggie.
Besides that, Louis had considerably expanded civil service and the army, set up North American colonies, and built a grand palace for himself.
Sure, what about when they call in the debt and want the gold? I said this to Louis, he tried to have me fucking guillotine, so I'm just asking you guys, maybe if you know.
At Versailles. So by the start of the Regency, France was in 3 billion livres of debt, about the size of its yearly economic output. Farms laid idle, factories shut down.
So you're saying basically 100% debt to GDP. So what you're saying is America right now has a worse debt situation than France after Louis XIV spent like fucking crazy for 70 years. Just checking.
Bankruptcies were rife and prices were falling. The crown's yearly revenue was 145 million livres, while their expenses were 142 million, meaning at this pace, it would take 1,000 years to pay the debt off. Something big had to be done.
All right.
What about that law guy who came to Paris like 5 years ago? Isn't he a financial wizard or something? Can't he do anything about it? John Law had been the Duke of Orleans' drinking buddy for a couple of years now, and throughout the time, he was always chatting about his financial ideas. The Duke was already kind of convinced of the land bank idea, although he didn't fully understand it. But now that he basically ruled France, John got a powerful ally.
I see.
He proposed it to the council, saying...
So he's just desperate. He's just a dude in a bad situation that's desperate that goes to his drunk friend and is like, whoa, whatever. What do you got? You said you could do this?
It would bring employment and revenue, boost agriculture, trade, and even the population size. A big, beautiful bank. That's what would fix this mess. Some on the council hated it though. The Duke of Saint-Simon called for France to default on its debt, while the Duke of Noailles was against both bankruptcy and the land bank. But eventually, besides some other reforms like punishing private tax collectors who went far over their profit limit, it was decided to let John Law set up his bank. But instead of a state bank like he wanted, it was a private bank, and it wouldn't manage royal revenues, until he could at least prove his monetary genius.
Okay.
In May 1716, La Banque Générale, the General Bank, opened its doors in Paris, gaining the trust of some when the Duke himself rode up and deposited 1 million livres of gold into it. Right now, the bank is kinda just a bank. It was well run, profitable, and conservative with its finances. It kept supplies of gold and silver, but lent out notes, just slips of paper. Slips like these ones. This was going to be France's currency now. To give it some authority, the crown allowed taxes to be paid in this paper. Not bad, but besides being easier to carry, people didn't see the use of paper money. So one thing John did to entice people to take out this paper and expand the money supply like he wanted was to make them slightly more valuable than coins. All notes were exchangeable for coins, and it was exchangeable at the current time. The French crown would often devalue coins in an effort to make up some lost revenue. So if someone was holding a note and coins were suddenly devalued, the note would actually become more valuable as it could be exchanged for the same amount as before.
I see.
This grew trust in Law's bank, and over a year, notes held a 15% premium over coins. And you know what? Law's plan was kinda working. Commerce was increasing, taxes were now regularly being paid, and France looked like it was on the up. Law had also allowed billet d'état, a little note signifying that you owned a part of the government's debt, to be exchanged for his notes, and this had commanded an almost 23% premium, meaning you were sure to make money if you gave your portion of the debt to the bank.
Okay.
This grew the bank more than anything, and soon enough, branches sprung up all over the country.
All right, John Law, so far so good.
The bank's conservative nature and the confidence the people gave it kept its balance sheet growing, and because it now owned much of the debt, it was actually starting to be paid off. Now that there are actual results, John Law was accepted by the nobility.
You're good.
Meanwhile, a legacy of one of Louis XIV's glory farming missions was boiling up. Louis had wanted to plant the French flag overseas, just like the Spanish had, and along with Quebec, he set up a new colony in America named Louisiana in 1682. There's no way to easily put this, but Louisiana was a complete poo hole. It was a hot, humid swamp
unlike today,
full of disease and mosquitoes, hurricanes, and alligators. Alligators which no Frenchman should ever have to deal with. But it was for the glory of the French people and whatever, so some settlers did end up there. Although half either died or left within their first year of landing on the Gulf Coast.
This still happens to French tourists in America today. Half of them die the second they touch the coast. The other half gets sick and leave. They simply can't stomach American food and water. We have a different lifestyle here.
15 very unprofitable years, the crown ran it until the treasury was unable to finance the Department of the Marine, which oversaw the colony. In 1712, it was given to a wealthy Parisian merchant named Antoine Crozat, who got sole control over all trading and commercial enterprises there for 15 years.
That's crazy.
Including all of its farms, slaves, and mines. In exchange, he was made to send at least 2 supply ships every year to the settlers. The Western Company
That's not even much cost.
Is estimated to have lost Crozat around 1 million livres, and 10 years before his charter expired, he petitioned the Duke to release him from it.
Wait, really? It was a disaster?
I guess this is really where John Law's finance bro side comes out.
That's crazy.
He thinks he can flip this company around.
Dude, a king gives you that much land and all the stuff on it, and you can't find a way to make that even break even? That's all you have to do is send 2 ships of stuff? That feels like a skill issue, bro. That's a lot of land.
And start to make a profit.
It's Louisiana, but you're thinking of Louisiana today in America, but Louisiana was like a fucking massive area. Like, what was the Louisiana Purchase? Look at this. Yeah, it's like this, dude. It's like this. It's all worthless. I feel like crops alone. Some of the worst parts of the U.S. Okay, don't be a hater. The economic output of that area should be able to support 2 ships plus profit.
Yes, John Law becomes the new proprietor of Louisiana, gaining a commercial monopoly over the couple hundred settlers who actually stayed there.
I see.
Most French people...
Okay, this is like at the very beginning when it's fucking super small. If it's a couple hundred people, yeah, it'd be hard to make money. I see.
Didn't know much about America, but they assumed that's where their gold and silver came from, since the Spanish found American silver and they were rich. Mississippi was like a city of gold, or a land of gold, or a mine of gold, or something. It didn't really matter. The people just assumed it had some gold. During his time running the company, Law played this up, showing off gold ingots, supposedly from Louisiana, giving away maps of America, a beautiful continent full of species, and even organizing parades of miners who were being sent off to America. Most didn't go. It's even during John Law's rule of Louisiana when the official capital was set up, named after his friend, the Duke of Orleans.
Wow.
To finance his purchase of the country.
I did not know that's where New Orleans came from. It was from his friend. How crazy is that? Cinema. Yeah, I mean, I've read about this, the specific Louisiana part. It was in that book I have on financial bubbles. Devil Take the Hindmost. But I didn't know all these supporting details around it. It's pretty interesting.
He issued 200,000 shares, each worth 500 livres, that may be payable in those billets d'état at their nominal value. At the time Law got this company, August 1717, these billets were worth about 160 livres. 160 livres to buy something worth 500 livres, and a slice in the New World. It didn't take a genius to figure out that if you held government debt, you could make some easy money from this. Though, if they wanted to replace their lost interest revenue...
And it's worth noting that easy money is always good money, always successful money, and always going to last. The easier, the better.
They would hope for the stock to appreciate. Soon enough, the Mississippi Company was fully capitalized and took on more of the government's debt. In September 1718, Law also bought the monopoly rights to the African tobacco trade.
Damn.
Then, the next year, he bought the Company of China and the East Indies.
Damn.
Eventually buying the companies of Senegal, Saint-Domingue, Africa, and the Cap Negre to form
Mr.
the
Worldwide over here.
Company of the East, although most people still called it the Mississippi Company. At the start of 1717, the Royal Council nationalized the General Bank, becoming the Banque Royale, with Law staying in charge. John Law owned the French Central Bank and the rights to all overseas trade, and people really started to take notice of him now.
Crazy.
Mississippi Company shares started to be exchanged by aristocrats, noblemen, the middle class,
so
and
much
even
power in one
servants.
person's hand.
These private exchanges wouldn't be regulated by John Law, with their price being determined by their own perceived value. Paris didn't even have a stock market, so most trading was done on the street outside the company's office, Rue Quincampoix. And as we'll see when the price...
Dude, it's so human to just fucking gamble on stocks that even when there wasn't a way to do it, people just hung out in front of the company and fucking gambled. Just fucking traded it up. That's awesome. It's so deep within us.
Started to take off, Quincampoix became the central hub of chaos and speculation. The Duke of Saint-Simon says there were crowds all day long with wild excitement, and people trusted the scheme entirely. Noblemen would turn their estates and houses into paper to speculate on the company's prospects. Servants sent by their masters would throw their life savings into the company. Foreigners flocked to Paris to buy stock for themselves. Some would even break through Law's windows and fall down his chimneys to apply for new shares. Robberies and murders were common at night, so guards had to patrol the street. Some houses along the road saw a 20 times increase in their yearly rent during the craze's years. It got so hectic that gates had to be installed on both sides of the street so that there could be some order during the trading hours. One for the nobility, the other for commoners.
Okay.
John Law wasn't done though. The Royal Bank still had to back up its deposits with gold and silver, and besides, it seems like he was transforming the bank into one backed up by a private company's shares rather than the state's land. If he wanted to see his dreams through, he would have to take over the rest of the financial system. The crown had reserved the rights to mint new coins, and since that could mess with the value of newly issued notes, John decided to buy the mint. The crown insisted he pay 50 million livres for these rights, but when you are the economy, you can find a way to make it work.
I mean, can't you just buy the mint with the 50 million livres and then print 50 million livres? I mean, you own the mint.
To finance his purchase, he issued 50,000 more shares at 1,000 livres each. About 300,000 people applied for these new shares, and the hype for more spots in the lucrative Mississippi Company shot the price of these shares well above 1,000, all the way to 1,800 livres.
Woo!
To make up for this new demand in notes, 250 million livres were issued. So now, Law owned France's entire money supply and trading profits. But if he wanted to reduce the national debt, he'd need to control the revenue. So John decided to buy the tax farmers. This was a 52 million livres per year payment. And
you're getting it over your head, John. You're getting it over your head, bro. It's getting too deep. This scheme is getting too big. There's going to be a problem, John.
And again, he gave out 50,000 shares, this time bumping the price up to 3,000 livres. But the purchase would pay itself off, John thought, because he would reorganize the tax collecting system to cut down on individual tax farmer profit. Though the real mission the regions...
Yeah. I know we complain a lot about like billionaires like Elon Musk having too much influence over government, but I gotta say, it's not as bad as like if Elon Musk was constantly issuing new Tesla shares to pay for buying our tax system and owning the rights to all of America's foreign trade. Like, we are in a better spot than we were. Just wait. Yeah, maybe I'll do it next.
He trusted him with was to make the debt, poof, disappear. By this point, it had already gone from 3 to 1.5 billion livres. And just looking outside his office, there were clearly people ready to buy into whatever John Law gave out. So the Royal Bank made its most consequential decision yet. It was gonna buy the rest of the government's debt. Through 3 separate stock sales, it would gobble this debt up. 3 times the available money would have been given if all applications were accepted. To buy it, in September, the bank printed 240 million livres.
Okay.
In December, 360 million. And finally, in February, another 200 million.
Okay.
Whether or not John Law approved of this printing is up for debate, but the Duke certainly did, and at the end of the day, France was still in absolute monarchy. The government would now pay 3% yearly interest payments on the debt, directly to the company, and Law would use this to pay for any potential new ventures. This is when you could say John had finally created his land bank.
Yeah.
So to recap this financial hocus pocus, Louis XIV had done a bunch of expensive things.
Yep.
To finance these things, they issued debt which many people of France had bought to collect interest from the government, and this was all backed by gold.
Yeah.
Law comes in and starts issuing paper notes, also backed by gold, but he's willing to accept this debt in exchange for paper notes. He also buys all of France's overseas trade, exchanging shares in the company for the debt as well.
Okay.
He uses hype to raise the share price of the company to expand it, which requires him to issue more paper notes. Then, the company buys the entire debt, needing to print even more notes. The debt moved from the crown to the company, and the payout moved from interest payments to company dividends.
Okay.
You might be thinking, wait, this doesn't actually get rid of the debt, but just transfers it from those who are comfortable holding the crown's bonds to those who want to see an insane return on their shares. And I'm kind of thinking the same thing. Whatever happened, the people were excited. Over the course of 1719, the Mississippi share price went up by 20 times. Not 20%, 20
That's
times.
fucking crazy.
From 500 livres to 10,000. Almost everybody who could get the shares were living
rich.
large. Around
to the
Paris,
moon.
at least, this new money was showing up everywhere. The middle class was now buying art pieces and crafted furniture. People started wearing silk, velvet, and golden cloth, so much so that a royal edict had to be passed to forbid liveried servants from wearing them. Watchmakers had to be imported from Switzerland to make up for all the new...
They made a law and the pores couldn't look fly. That's hater energy. That is deep hater energy. Some fucking nobleman got mogged by a servant who looked fresh to death, and they had to change the fucking rules.
New demand, working class investors became little noblemen, people were wearing jewels, riding around in new carriages, and it was a little obvious people were eating better. 2 terms were coined to describe the winners of this period that we still use today: nouveau riche and millionaire.
Wow.
As for John Law, who profited by far the most of
this
this scheme, he put all of his proceeds into real estate. He bought the Palais Mazarin, 5 in the Place Vendôme, and 10 on Rue Saint-Honoré. One for
Smart
the equivalent of $350 million US.
Jesus.
All this new money was really helping the economy. As John Law had predicted, land was now employed again. Artisans and farm workers found that they had a steady stream of customers now. Customers with a lot of money that were willing to pay higher prices.
All right.
So they charged higher prices. From the start of the scheme to the time of the peak, wages around Paris had quadrupled, and similarly, the average price level for staple goods had doubled. This was the first true instability the French people felt from this virtual money system. Inflation had spread across France, reaching over 20.
Printing a bunch of money caused inflation? No, check your math on this. No, there can't be a downside. There can't be a downside. Otherwise, why would we do it so much? It has to be fucking up. Who told? Who told him we print it?
20% a month in January. Why? The amount of livres in circulation had increased by about 1 billion throughout the year, then another 1.8 billion the following year until its peak. It's worth remembering that the Mississippi Company wasn't some financial abstraction, but an actual company dependent on the real profit it made. Louisiana had generated none. It was basically just a few hundred huts. And even with all the other trade revenue, the company's shares were trading at a price-to-earnings ratio of around 50. But the financial system...
That's fucking nothing. Palantir's like 300. Tesla's like 120. 50? That would be a fucking blue chip stock today. 50's Nvidia. 50's fine.
The system had grown so dependent on the share prices that an office for the buying and selling of shares was set up by law in an effort to stabilize its price. The company itself would buy or sell its own shares to keep the value near or around 10,000 livres. This was directly inspired from the Dutch East India Company, whose shares Law had written had acted like money since they could be used to settle debt. When John publicly converted to Catholicism, he was allowed to become the Controller General of France, basically the Prime Minister. Not bad for an ex-convict immigrant.
Not bad.
He now officially merged the bank and the company into one entity, and John became increasingly
John, you gotta know when to stop. The scheme worked. He made a lot of money. This is a great time to retire. Retire to all your real estate, which is a real hard asset that will hold its value. You got to quit while you're ahead, bro. You got to know this is gonna go bad.
Despotic by this time.
Nah, he's on a roll.
His new goal was to eliminate the link to gold entirely. Some could see the writing on the walls that this was all bound to collapse. In one story, the Prince of Conti had allegedly become so furious after Law rejected his application for Mississippi stock that he withdrew all the gold he could from his account. It took 3 wagons to carry it off. And although the Duke mandated he pay back 2 of those wagons, it didn't take long for others to catch on. Some began smuggling gold out of the country. They would buy plates or jewelry, hiding them in manure carts to get them to Holland or England. The problem was there were 2 times as many notes for every livre of gold or silver. If everyone were to convert their notes to gold, the system was sure to collapse. By February, Law gave up on stabilizing the stock, and a royal edict was passed to accept taxes only in banknotes. The government had also banned people from holding over 500 livres in coins. In something straight out of the Soviet Union, a pamphlet was distributed around Paris railing against money hoarders and encouraging people to spy on and turn in those they knew had kept a stash. If you turned them in, You got one half of the profit.
Oh, how about that?
This was crazy. One nobleman wrote that it was inconceivable a sudden revolution did not break out.
Oh, it's coming.
This measure did not guarantee stability or confidence as Law had hoped. People were distrustful of each other, their savings were wiped out at the stroke of a pen, and the excitement for the shares turned into state-mandated use of them as money. Another royal edict was passed to lock the value of the shares at 9,000 livres.
Okay.
To keep this peg...
Okay, now you're getting ridiculous. You passed a law that the share price can't go down? You know who else did this? I actually been wanting to make a video about this for a while. The Nazis did this. Dude, the story of the Nazi stock market is so fucking funny. They literally passed a law that share prices can only go up. Like it can go flat and it can go up, but it cannot go down. It's actually, I really will make a video. I gotta do it eventually. It's actually so funny. The whole economy of Nazi Germany during the war is fucking insane. There's so many insane choices they make. It's very, very funny. I think I gotta follow up. Would you not just sell anything then? You can't. It could only, if it didn't cost the price of it, you couldn't do it.
Required the printing of over 1 billion more livres into circulation. This terrible unrest continued for 2 months until the council met and determined it couldn't go on any longer. The value of paper livres had to fall or the value of gold livres had to rise. They chose the former. On May 1st, 1720, it was announced the company would suddenly reduce the value of its shares from 9,000 to 5,000 livres.
Yikes!
The chaos that followed nearly broke the city. Some people had thrown their entire life savings into this company, and 44% of its value vanished in one day? There were great stampedes through the city. The royals had to hire Swiss guards to protect themselves. One day, when a crowd thought it saw John Law leaving his palace, the mob ripped his carriage to pieces.
Dude, that's wild.
There were fights between the crowds and the guards, resulting in some deaths to both sides. One economist who had speculated...
Bro, you guys better hope the Mag 7 doesn't drop 40%. We're like in the same fucking spot. I just want you guys to know, we're in the same fucking spot. It was like... Everyone's fucking retirement's in the same fucking 7 stocks.
Against the French livre was expelled from the country for doing so. And finally, when the government allowed people to hold coins again, a rush on the royal bank resulted in 14 people being crushed to death.
Jesus.
So much coin was taken out, the kingdom had to start minting them with copper. By this point in his life, Law hadn't just lost the confidence of the people, but his favor with the nobles. The Council of Finance wouldn't listen to him, and first after stepping down as Controller General, he was appointed as a country seat governor, but after that didn't work out, the Duke permitted John Law a passport to leave the country.
Get the fuck out.
Even faster than he came in and completely reshaped the French economy, he left, leaving behind his wife and kids.
Damn,
the company was stripped of its minting and tax collecting privileges and continued on as a shell of its former self, with share prices eventually coming back down to around...
This would be a fire Wall Street Bets post if that existed at the time. Dude, it's just like, holy fuck, I just convinced France to give me their complete control of all their money and I fucking blew it. Blew it on. I basically ruined the whole country in like a few years. Gah. Wall Street Bets, am I cooked? They all think this Louisiana purchase thing is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, but it's not worth anything.
500 livres. 11 years after its collapse, the Mississippi Company was returned to the crown. People distrusted paper money and financial innovations for generations, and for the rest of the ancient regime, only gold and silver were used as money, while religious institutions dominated finance. The bank was officially liquidated in 1723, after extensive talks over how to deal with its liabilities and how to restructure the debt. The now 13-year-old king...
Dude, it's funny to think of that being part of France's culture and they being the ones that ended America's gold standard because they didn't trust how much America was printing money. So they demanded their repayment in gold. Like, this is relatively recently. This is like in the fucking 70s. They said, you're printing too much money for the war in Vietnam. We don't trust it. We want our money back in gold. And they sailed a warship into New York Harbor to not to fight. Obviously, France could not fight America in the 70s. They just said, hey, can we load it up with gold? And they did. And that's why we got off the gold standard.
Louis XV had been saddled with over 1 billion livres of it. But much of the debt simply vanished, as the notes it was denominated in no longer had any monetary value. Louisiana itself was lost under Louis XV's reign, and France went back to being fiscally constrained, running a government which constantly had troubles with raising revenue, a theme that would continue until the eventual French Revolution.
Oops.
John Law left in late 1720, first to Brussels, then England, and then to Venice. He left behind almost all of his wealth as property around Paris. He'd always thought of returning to France, but the death of the...
Yeah, I mean, normally taking your fake paper money and turning it into hard assets like real estate is a good idea. But if it's the 1700s and you're about to be exiled, it's actually bad because you can't access those estates. In the modern day, they can do it all the time by buying real estate all over the world and don't even have to be there. But in the 1700s, you're kind of screwed.
Duke of Orleans in 1723 severed the link to his closest ally and friend. He spent his last years gambling on reflecting on where he had gone wrong. Nothing he did was wrong, he thought. He still believed that sound money using paper would be the best way to run an economy, but the speculation of the public ruined it. In one case, he blamed the end of his scheme on a plague that had struck southeastern France that year, causing people to flee to the safety of gold. He had even offered his services to the Duke of Lorraine and the Papal States, both of course rejecting him after this saga. John Law died a relatively poor man in Venice in 1729.
What a life, though!
After once becoming the most powerful man in the world. Although his scheme ended in
There's still hope it can happen to Elon. There's still fucking hope, boys. It can happen to Elon. If it happened to John Law, it can happen to Elon.
Spectacular failure, and he died disgruntled and dismissed. John's ideas would come to define how a modern economy is run. Nearly everywhere on Earth uses paper money today. Considering how many opposing kingdoms he had proposed his ideas and helped to, regardless of his Scottish background, I think he would be absolutely delighted to see how his land bank proposal ended up today.
That was a fantastic video. I really enjoyed it. Shout out to Hoser for making that. Most people don't make videos like that. I wish it was doing better, actually.